Libertarianism is all about individual liberty, and it should never be defined by the terms liberal or conservative.
And communism is no good.
That's right. Big swing and a miss.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. Welcome to Flynndogg Woodwork. So recently on YouTube, it seems like a lot of woodworking channels are taking a look at Chinese websites to see if they can get a great deal on tools. And I've even done a couple of videos myself. But in today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly what my experience was. So as I mentioned in the intro, I've done 2 videos on Chinese websites to see if I can get any great deals on woodworking tools. And these 2 websites are Banggood and Temu.
It's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Temu. And I had a lot of fun doing those videos. For Temu, they gave me $180 to spend on their website. But for Banggood, I spent my own money. And since I had so much fun checking out these websites, I thought I'd check out one more Chinese website, Wish.com. But as I was making the video for Wish.com, I began to realize that I was having the exact same experience with each one of these Chinese websites. And frankly, all of these websites seem to have about the same products and junk you can buy for about the same price. So in today's video, instead of talking about the great deals you can get on this website, we're going to talk about the websites themselves. And believe it or not, I have well over a dozen concerns that I have about purchasing from these websites. So let's not waste any more time and start discussing these issues. So the first issue that I have with these websites is they all tend to use that old marketing tactic of bait and switch. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So here's a perfect example on Temu. This is something that I considered purchasing when I was thinking about doing some juice grooves on a cutting board. And here's the exact same picture for a fraction of the price. So I'm obviously going to pick the cheaper one. But as I began to dig into the details of that second item, I began to realize that it's just a clamp for that item. Even though they infer from the pictures they show that what you're going to get is the entire product. And this is a reoccurring problem with all of these websites. They use the exact same picture for different products that may have entirely different dimensions. They'll also use a picture of the product even if they're selling only an accessory that goes with that product. So for these websites, you're going to have to spend a little extra time reading the exact description of what you're buying before you put it in your cart. Here's another example of how I got duped when I purchased something on Wish.com. Check out this awesome hammer for just over $5. This would be perfect for my shop as I don't have a ball pen hammer. So I was pretty stoked about this one. In fact, this was one of the tools that I was going to feature on my video about Wish.com. But unfortunately, I was unpleasantly surprised when it arrived. Well, initially this doesn't look too bad, but when you compare it to a regular size hammer, you can see what I was surprised by. Obviously, I wasn't expecting a toy hammer. But I'll take the blame for this one because when you dig into the pictures of this tool, you actually see it resting in someone's hand. So just another word of caution to read all the dimensions of anything you purchase from these websites. My next concern relates to the old saying, if it's too good to be true, then it probably isn't. Let's go back to Wish.com for a second. I'm going to show you 2 products that I purchased for the video I was intending on doing. So here's the first item. It's a diamond stone 400, 600, and 1000 grit for only $3.71. Now, even though diamond stones have come down in price recently, you'll know that that's an unbelievable price to get 3 diamond stones for just over $3. But since it was so cheap, I bought it anyway. So inside this packaging is what I got, and it's one 400 grit diamond stone. And as you can see from the thickness of it, I don't think this thing is going to last but a couple of weeks. So where's my other 2 diamond stones? Well, I asked myself the same question and I went back to Wish.com and I looked at the product again. And even though the description says I should be getting 3 of them, I only got 1. And even many of the pictures of the product show the 3 diamond stones as well. But once again, it's all about reading the fine detail and selecting exactly what you want before you check out. And if you want all 3 girts, it's actually a little bit more expensive than purchasing each one individually. And that should tell you something right off the bat. If they can't even spell check their own product, I'm sure they're not spending a whole lot of time with quality control.
Every week I'm supposed to take 4 hours and do a quality spot check at the paper mill. And of course, the 1 year I blow it off, this happens.
Now let's take a look at another item I purchased on Wish.com that has a very similar tale. So I thought this was pretty cool, especially for $3.30. It's a little attachment that you can put on a drill to make it essentially a circular saw. So I thought this would be perfect, a quick little attachment for my drill where I could cut through wood, metal, glass, and even stone. And the nice thing is that it comes with all those blades, so I'll be able to use it and start cutting as soon as I get it. So let's go take a look at what I actually got. Well, once again, I was foiled by the description and the pictures. As you can see, I only got a metal cutting disc. And frankly, I wouldn't be so upset, but I don't think I can find a saw blade at a big box store that has a 10mm arbor. At least ones that would fit this arbor, as these blades have little indentions on them so that they can fit that arbor exactly. And this brings me to my next point about buying tools from these websites. And this is mostly for my friends in Liberia, Myanmar, as well as the US.
Okay, this is a map of every country that uses the metric and imperial system. Oh, and the UK uses both. So we're killing it.
And that is that you need to pay attention to the standard units and measurements that these tools come in. Now, the vast majority of these tools are in metric, so if you're living in a country that uses imperial, you may have a hard time finding replacement parts for these tools. Well, that's enough about that. Now let's move on to the materials that are used in a lot of these Chinese products, as well as their quality. And this is something that I encountered the most when I was shopping on Temu. Now, if you watched my video on Temu, you'll know that the two products that I was most excited to get was a pocket hole jig as well as a T-square. And that Enjoy Wood pocket hole jig was one of the most disappointing unboxings that I've ever done. Everything looked great and appeared to be high quality until I went to go actually use the tool. And the bit that came with that pocket hole jig didn't even fit the tool itself, which made that tool 100% Chinese crap in my opinion. Now, how you could get to shipping a product with a critical piece that doesn't even fit your tool is beyond me, but that's exactly what happened. And I guess that's my point here, is there's going to be some products that flat out just don't work, and you're going to need to return them, which can be a huge frustration if you're in the middle of a project and you intend on using that tool. And that's my buyer beware to many people that use these websites, as quality control is not a priority for many of these companies. In fact, I'm not even sure it exists for some. But quality control wasn't the only problem that I experienced with Temu. Another huge red flag for me was the materials that were used in these tools. So if you've watched this channel before, you know that I love woodpeckers and I love the tools they produce. But even though I love these tools, I'm constantly on the hunt for a cheaper alternative. And that's why I selected this T-square on Temu, as I thought it would be an excellent alternative to woodpeckers. And this is when I came to the sad realization that all red tools are not created equal. Now, one of the first things that I noticed when I received that T-square was that it was completely bent and unusable. In fact, it was shaped like a banana. But that's not the only thing that was wrong with that tool. Anything that was red on that tool was made out of plastic. And this is something that I think you need to be really careful about when you're purchasing these tools, is if the tool doesn't say that it's made out of aluminum or stainless steel, you can assume that it's made out of plastic. But not only that, a lot of the molds that they use to make these plastic tools aren't entirely accurate. And when they go to take them out of the molds, it's been my experience that they don't take the time to clean up the plastic so that the surfaces are nice and smooth. So make sure you take the time to look for the word aluminum or stainless steel anytime you're purchasing a tool that you think is metal. Now that we've covered that, let's talk about shipping. So we already know that these tools aren't coming from around here, and because of that, we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. So what is a little bit longer? Well, for the 3 companies that I ordered from, I had different experiences for each one. The quickest in my experience has been Banggood, as I received the products that I ordered about 2 weeks after ordering it. The next fastest was Temu, as I received most of the products I ordered within 3 weeks of ordering it. More about that later. Lastly is Wish, as I've received 4 out of the 5 items I ordered within 3.5 weeks of ordering it. I am waiting on one more item, and it's been about 4.5 weeks. So if you're looking for a quick turnaround or overnight shipping, you're just not going to get it with these companies. Now, you also heard me mention that I'm still waiting on one item from Wish, and it's this item right here. And I'm guessing the red on this item is made out of plastic. And I'm guessing that this item is probably not going to arrive. Oh hey, Future Brian here. Turns out I was wrong and I ended up getting that square. But let me show you a couple of problems with this square. Well, first off, I was entirely right about the red being plastic. What I wasn't anticipating was the actual blade of the ruler is plastic as well. Not only that, but this ruler won't hold square. Even when I have it cinched down as tight as it will go, I can still easily remove that blade. So now let's go back to the past and continue the video. Before we do that though, I will give you those winning lottery numbers. 16, 12, 14, 30. So this is another issue with these websites. Not only do you have to wait a certain amount of time to request a refund or a replacement, but you're also going to have to wait that extra 3 weeks to have them ship it back out to you. So a 2 or 3 week wait can turn into a 2-month wait rather quickly. But this wasn't the only shipping issue I had with these websites, as I also had one with Temu. And this is the product that I had an issue with. As you can see, it has 2 main pieces. Now I got the first piece within 2.5 weeks of ordering it. The second piece, however, didn't come until about 4.5 weeks later. And I'm sorry, but that's weird. This was one product that came in 2 boxes. I got the first product and I assumed the second piece was lost in the mail. However, I did end up getting it about 2 weeks later. And yes, these websites do provide tracking information, but from my experience, this tends to get hung up. It will say something like US Airport or US Customs, and it will just sit there for a while. And that's exactly where my wish item is sitting right now, US Airport. Next, let's talk about the packaging for the products sold on these websites. So out of the 3 websites that I took a look at, there was one clear-cut winner, and that was Banggood.com. All the packaging I got from them was very nicely packaged. Now for Wish, the packaging was adequate. It came in a plastic bag and I received all the products I ordered, except for that one item I'm waiting on. Temu was a completely different story. Much of the packaging was completely damaged and a lot of the parts and pieces were rolling around inside of the bags. Now Temu does separate each product you order into a separate bag, however much of the products that were in that bag were still damaged. So just be aware if you're buying something small or has a number of small pieces with it, especially from Temu, there's a high likelihood something might be damaged or lost. Since we're talking about something that may have multiple pieces, let's talk about anything that you buy from any of these websites that may require some assembly. So even though we may not always use them all the time, most products we buy, at least here in America, come with instructions.
Getting to know your wet dry vac. Well, hey buddy.
But if you're looking for instructions from any of these websites, you're just not going to find them. And if you do, there's a high likelihood that they'll be in Chinese. And I can say that definitively, as for every single item I received from these 3 websites, I did not receive one single piece of instructions. Now for all the items I received, I really didn't need them. However, if you're purchasing something you're unfamiliar with, you can expect to get no instructions. Now earlier I mentioned that you get some tracking information for the products you order, and you get this via email. But hold on, you're going to be getting a lot of email. Like 3 emails a day, every single day. So if you don't like having a bunch of spam in your inbox, don't order from these websites. Well, that just about wraps up my personal experience in ordering products from these 3 separate companies. I do have one more concern, and this has to do with the ethics of all 3 of these companies. The first issue I have is you'll notice that all 3 of these companies don't sell anything that expensive, and that's because they're trying to avoid paying US tax. This allows Chinese companies to import their products without paying a duty tax. There's no duty tax on any singular item that's under $800. And those taxes were set up for a reason, and that's to protect American businesses that produce here in America. The second problem that I have with all 3 of these websites is they're proactively trying to fool the public into thinking that they're actually American-based companies. Now, although it may appear that many of these companies have a branch of their headquarters here in the United States, most of their products are being serviced out of China. And this means that a Chinese manufacturer is reaping the rewards of each sale. And I'm not even going to go into the labor issues that occur at Chinese factories. And finally, it's the blatant abuse of patent infringement that's occurring by these Chinese manufacturers that are hurting all the companies that developed all of these unique tools. And that's about as political as this channel will get. Well, thanks for allowing me to share my experience on purchasing woodworking tools from these Chinese websites. I think it's an issue that really needs to be talked about. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and leave a comment. It really does help out this small woodworking channel. Until next time, take care as always.